What's up guys, Zach Perner here and welcome to the first of a new series all about teenage bodybuilding. My experience, my mistakes that I've made, and basically what I wish somebody had told me when I was a little weed at 14. Hope you guys enjoy. Who's kidding who? I'm still a weed. All right guys, so basically I've been getting a lot of questions about teen bodybuilding and a lot of kids that want me to make a video specifically on teenagers trying to get to the gym, lose weight, build muscle, boys, girls, whatever you identify as this table, then fair enough. But anyway, I decided to make a whole series on it because there's so much to cover and I thought essentially a lot of people are just gonna say, what are you talking about? It's the exact same. But it is and it isn't. I mean, the principles are the same, the fundamental principles, but it helps having somebody tell you the specifics, and especially with my mistakes and what I've done, what I wish somebody had told me, and also just specific to your situation because school's different. It's different because you have certain times that you can eat or can't eat or train for that matter. Generally, you're gonna be new to training. You might still live at home, so you're gonna be eating at home. There's a few different variables that I think make it just a little bit more complicated. So I'm gonna try run through all of those basically. But make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already guys, because I'm very keen for this series and I really want you guys to get massive as well. So before we get into any of the specific mistakes I was making, let's have a look at some photos. We'll get some old throwbacks up. So here's me at about 16 or 17. At this point, I was pretty addicted and I was cutting now. So I was trying to get lean and I was pretty skinny as you can tell, but I still loved it and I was still going every day. Now here's young curly-headed Zach lifting the stack on the tricep extension machine with very little triceps. I remember I saw this photo when he took it and I freaked out because I saw a couple of feathers. See, genetics, it's just weird. But still, my form would have been pretty hilarious to say the least. Calves are looking strong there too. And here's my first ever lat spread, I reckon. So at this point, the size was starting to come on because that's all I was doing was training and eating. And my body was just responding pretty well to just weight training in general. Fast forward, probably another year or two, we've got a young Miley Cyrus here, just checking out the serratus, seeing what we got. So this one, I thought I was pretty shredded, things were looking good. Now even further down the track, probably another year, I obviously reached the pinnacle of dieting and I got down to that rabbit status. And this is gonna segue right into my mistakes. I've felt quite big here. I thought I was quite big, but now I can look back and I see that I was very skinny. And this was just simply because I was dieting too hard. So that brings me to my mistake number one is don't diet when you don't need to. A lot of kids, myself included, are obsessed with getting abs and that's all you really want. But if you also want to build muscle, you can't just be so focused on abs because building muscle is a lot harder than you think and actually getting shape is a lot harder. So you need to spend more time in a calorie surplus. So eating more calories than you're burning, bulking essentially, but at the same time, not going too crazy. So many people are obsessed with dieting and getting abs that, like me, I would diet all the time. So my bulks would only last a couple of months at best, maybe 3 months. Then I got sick of being fat, and so I would diet again. And all that was doing was slowly losing muscle on the cut, and I actually didn't have enough muscle mass to begin with. So a lot of you out there might feel like you're skinny fat, and you really want to get lean, but at the same time, you don't have the muscle mass. It's gonna make it so hard for you guys to get abs, because I'll chuck a photo up here as well when I was dieting. I tried to get abs here and I didn't know why it wasn't working. And now I can see that it's because like I was eating nothing and it's because I didn't have the muscle mass there to begin with to actually to show through. You know, I had maybe this much fat covering my abs, but there was nothing there. The abs weren't blocky, they weren't built. So I should have just prioritized weight training and left it for a year or two and then I could have revealed it later. So that's mistake number one is don't diet when you don't need to. Mistake number two is don't over bulk. Now, it's funny because I dieted too hard and as a result, I would bulk too hard. I was working at the extremes and it just doesn't help you. I would get so fat. For me, I'd get fat because I can put on weight like this. I would dirty bulk, I would eat KFC more than once a week. Before bed, I would have ridiculous gainer shakes with oats. I would force feed, literally, I would force feed. This was good in a way because it let me push my body. I knew that I was pushing my body physically because I was eating so much and I didn't want to leave any stone unturned. But at the same time, I was overdoing it with the wrong foods. I wasn't eating clean foods for the most part. I was dirty bulking when I shouldn't have been. My body, I don't know how I was processing all of the food that was coming in. More. I probably felt bloated, I'd say I would. My body wasn't running smoothly or efficiently and I probably would have felt like shit. Thinking back, if I had known better now, I'd figure out the foods that agree with me, like rice and certain meats, and I would not eat junk food. You need to eat healthy food, guys. Unless you're like really, really skinny and you can't possibly eat any more calories, then by all means have gainers, eat fast food if you need to, but if you're just an ordinary bloke who's trying to put on muscle, you don't need to eat like a dickhead. You can get your food in through clean sources and you'll feel better and you'll perform better. Yeah, I never took fat photos, I hated it. All right, check this one, 83 kilos, which is nearly what I'm at now. And this was 2013, that's crazy. I'm gonna cut out the bottom part because I'm wearing undies for some stupid reason, as if I'm ever gonna use that. That looked weird. Undies in a tea bag. King. I had no visible abs whatsoever. Body fat, I'd estimate around 18 to 20%. But at this point, I was training pretty hard. I was going every single day, probably overdoing it, and I was eating everything in sight. So it wasn't good because then when I diet away all the muscle mass that I probably put on, all the additional. And because I need to be in a diet for 20 weeks just to get abs. So it was very up and down for me. And that's one thing I really want to emphasize to you guys is just don't have these crazy bulks, crazy cuts, because your body's just doing this and it'll leave your metabolism pretty cooked, and you're also gonna be so frustrated all the time. You'd rather a nice linear, slow off-season bulk where you're putting on weight, you're putting on fat as well, but it's not ridiculous. And then you're not dieting every 6 weeks because you feel bad about it. You've got to find that happy medium where you can bulk as long as you can. That's one thing I want to emphasize too is guys, bulk and have an off-season or muscle gaining phase, whatever you want to call it, whatever helps you sleep at night. Have one of those for as long as you can. The longer you can, the better. As soon as you start to feel like too fluffy, abs are gone, you get less pumps, that's a sign of insulin resistance, which means you need to back off a bit. You need to diet and spend a bit of time, even as a mini cut, just for six weeks or 4 weeks, just to reset everything and then go again and learn from your mistakes. Don't do what I did and think, all right, I was cutting yesterday, I'm bulking today, I'm gonna eat 4,000 calories of sugar. Like, it is just, it's dumb and it's extreme. Mistake number 3 is not focusing on form. So I would go in the gym and we were very focused on just pushing weight, which is great, but if you're pushing weight with bad form, all you're doing is potentially injuring yourself, and you're changing the exercise. For example, a dumbbell bench press. I got up to 45 kilos at my first ever gym. Must have been 16 or 17. I would hate to see a video of that now, like it'd be hilarious. I'd probably just do this, just doing these ones. All I cared about was moving that weight. So granted, I probably got growth from that, of course. You're gonna there's muscle, there's tension on your chest. You're moving it partially, of course. But why not strip that back to 25 kilo, which is what I should have done, and gone all the way down and actually squeeze my chest. I would have got better growth out of that in my opinion, and I wouldn't have put my shoulders under such strain. That's one thing to consider, guys, is really focus on nailing your form. Even dedicate your first year of training to just perfecting form, and it'll feel natural, because the last thing you guys want is an injury. Mistake number 4 is actually working too much. So because I was working hard, I thought that meant I was working smart. So I thought I was doing everything right, but really I was just pushing myself too hard and doing stupid things. So like every set sometimes would be a drop set. I would just think, oh well, more muscle damage, better growth. I wasn't focused on progressive overload. I wasn't focused on being better than I was last week. It was just about, all right, today's shoulder day. How can I f up my shoulders? And I would go in there and just do random stuff. Like sets would be like 30 to 40 sets. And then the next week I'd do a completely different workout and I'd just try to shock my body and do all this just a pretty extreme stuff. So I never really knew when I was overtrained, because for example, now I'm focusing on getting stronger or getting more reps each week with the same form. So if one day I go to the gym and I'm feeling pretty tired and run down and I try to hit what I hit last week and I don't get anywhere near it, that's a good sign that I'm overtrained. So I know, okay, I should have taken a rest day today. Back then, I trained 7 days a week. I trained 7 days a week for 3 years straight. And the only time I had days off was if I was on holidays. I remember bragging about this because I just thought I was harder than everybody else. But really, it just wasn't very smart. I was working hard, but I wasn't working smart. So now I will put in rest days, and I'm conscious of my sets, not to do 50 sets in a workout. I think, all right, with this workout that I did today, would I be able to get stronger on this next week? If I'm doing 50 sets, you can't possibly add more volume in the next week. It's just, your body will break and it'll fight back. So that's why rest days are good to implement, or just listen to your body. If you're feeling like you're pretty tired, your body's drained, you're weak, have a rest day, have 2. Just listen to your body, but make sure you're having them. And my final mistake was not tracking anything. So similar to the training, I didn't track the diet side of things either. Like I used MyFitnessPal a couple of times. I didn't know the contents of food, so my meals, I've seen photos of my meal prep. Let's see if I can find some. But I would have like 8 chicken tenderloins per meal. Like now I'd have 3 or 4. So protein consumption was way over. And it was a lot of the diet stuff was just unnecessary because I wasn't tracking. What I should have done is gone, okay, let's try protein at 180, carbs at 300 and fats at 70. Let's try that, see what happens. See what my body weight does after 2 weeks, then we'll go from there. I didn't do that. All I did was go, all right, bang, protein, 300, carbs, 400, fats.
21.
Like that's probably what they would have been, but I didn't care about the numbers. I wasn't tracking anything, so I didn't know anything about the diet. All I knew was I was eating a lot of food. And I didn't know anything about the training because I was doing everything completely different every single day. So advice to myself back then is to start writing my workouts down, try to get stronger, try to improve with the diet, write my diet down, work it out, think, is this right for me? Can I change something? Am I eating too much? Am I eating too little? Whatever it is, adjust from there. But as long as you're tracking and writing things down, tracking your weight, you know what's going on. You're not leaving anything to chance. I couldn't be bothered putting the work in to understand what was going on and actually be meticulous about things. I just thought, I'm just gonna go and train and eat. Which is fine if you guys just wanna do this, you know, as just for fun. But if you wanna be the best you can, then you need to put in these little details of actually understanding your body and understanding how these things work. You can't just, you know, put it down to life. In summary, guys, don't cut too much, don't cut unnecessarily, don't over bulk and get on that dirty KFC bulk like I did. Know your body as well. Cut yourself off there, Zach. Know your body. If you're a hard gainer and you can't put on weight, know that you need to eat more than the average guy. If you put on weight like this just by looking at a donut, then maybe you shouldn't aggressively bulk. Just know your body, and everybody is different. Just because your mate's doing one thing doesn't mean you have to. Just because I'm doing one thing doesn't mean you have to. Number 3 is learn your form, perfect it, and prioritize it. Number 4 is don't work too much. Make sure you put rest days in. And number 5 is track everything, all right? I want you guys to be the Sacagaweas of tracking macros. But otherwise, that is it for me, guys. I hope you enjoy this little series. I thought I'd start it off with just an intro to just general tips and advice from me, and to let you guys know that what's to come, essentially. We've got training that I'm gonna cover. I'm gonna cover macros, supplements, even little things like time management, anything I can think of that'll make your lives a bit easier when you're trying to build muscle, burn fat, whatever it is, I will cover. So if you have any more topics or things you want me to cover, questions, leave them in the comments. You guys definitely know what to do. And if you're new to this channel, I'll let you know what to do. Stay massive. Slide into your DMs in the PM and the AM. Then I slide into your feelings when you see just what I'm saying.